All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final game, finally, of the round of 8 of ShoutCraft America, which has been delayed longer than the average Blizzard title. And we have on the line the final 2 contestants. One of these guys is going to get to go and face Minigun in a PvP best of 7, which will no doubt be highly entertaining if you're a real big fan of Protoss. And I have for you Hellokitty and State. Hellokitty, welcome back to the show.
Hi, TotalBiscuit. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about you?
Not too bad. Just waiting for, the game to get started.
Yeah, that's always good. You've been waiting for quite some time, so of course we do apologize. We'll keep this interview nice and short. Now, you were able to make your way through your group in a very interesting set of games. You have a lot of different strange builds prepared for people.
Yeah, especially for Seppi, I look at his VODs, look at his replays, and all his PVZs. And since we're good practice partners, I have, a lot of builds for all my friends that are playing the ShoutCraft.
Very cool. State, welcome back.
Hey.
You showed a very strong performance in Group D, honestly. I think a lot of people were expecting QXC to go through in first place. That did not happen. You were able to solidly shut him down. Were you feeling that confident going into it, or was it just a case of, hey, on the day it worked out?
Yeah, my PvT has been really good for the past month or so. It's the other matches I've been struggling with, but yeah, I expected to win the group.
Well, unfortunately, you don't get an opportunity to play that anymore because there are no Terran left. Sad face. You're going to have to deal with potentially 2 PvPs and then a PvZ if you end up in the finals in New York. So how are you feeling about your PvP right now?
I beat EG Oz in my WCS group.
Yes, you did.
In Premier League, and not really sure how I did that. My PvP's been, I think, my weakest matchup for since HOTS came out, I think. I've had a hard time adjusting in that matchup, and
well, apparently so was Oz, thankfully, more so than you did. Hellokitty, you don't seem to be the kind of person that would be uncomfortable in any matchup.
PvT is actually my weakest matchup, but PvP is often random. You can often lose with just retarded build order losses, so you can't really account for skill in this matchup as much as the other matchups.
All right, well, I would like to hear what you have to say. Now, I've got to say, Hellokitty, you were probably known as the guy that BM'd the most in the intros in the group stages. Do you feel any particular animosity towards State, or is he your Protoss buddy?
Well, I mean, he's a Protoss buddy, but he calls me Owen and Cheeser, and as long as he plays safe, he can win, so I got some macro builds prepared for him again.
Those famous PvP macro builds. We have seen one of those games. Some people might say that's funny, but we did see a 5-base PvP in this particular tournament, which, yeah, it was about as weird as you would expect it to be. But
who was that between?
The Minigun was involved in it in some way. I'm trying to recall who it was against. Was it Minigun? It was Minigun v Puck, I believe. Yeah, it was a strange game indeed. It's not often that you see PvP get to that particular stage. So, I don't want to keep you guys too longer. I know you want to go at it. State, do you have any words for Hellokitty going into this matchup?
Good luck. I hope we have an entertaining games.
Hellokitty?
Good luck to you too, my friend.
Alright, nice and civil. Okay, guys, to your stations. We are about ready to kick it off, and this will be a very interesting PvP indeed. I gotta say, Greg, I do not approve of Hellokitty's choice of Skype picture.
It actually doesn't show up for me. What is it?
It's probably for the best. Let's just say he's not wearing much.
Well, does it at least look good, or should he be wearing stuff?
I think it's pretty clear that he lifts. I'm just not sure how much, and I think he may have skipped leg day.
That's... Well, at least it's comical, then.
Yeah, pretty much. Alright. Speaking of comical, Hellokitty is known for some interesting BMs, some really weird cheesy builds, but PvP is probably not the best matchup for him to really show that.
No, probably not. PvP right now, this is actually going to be really frustrating to cast, because PvP, kind of anything is viable.
Yeah.
We've moved past the mass void ray, beats everything portion of the game. And these players in particular, State, he's an aggressive player, but he's relatively straight up. But Hellokitty is Hellokitty. Like, you could see pretty much anything from him. And so this is actually going to be really confusing, especially given this is one of the matchups I know the least. So I'm honestly not looking forward to this, except for the fact that I'm sure the match will be really exciting and funny to watch, because God knows what they'll do.
Yeah, I don't have a bloody clue at this stage. PvP best of 5 is something that's I was getting into it, I think, before Heart of the Swarm came along, and now I just don't even know anymore.
Yeah, at least the matchup is more diverse. At least it's not just you make Colossus and whoever has more Colossus wins. And it's also not the make Void Rays and whoever has more Void Rays wins. It does feel like it's a much more diverse, interesting matchup than it used to be. At least, yeah, even if it is somewhat random and build ordery.
Okay, Greg, we'll need to get you into another lobby here because we did unfortunately have to remake. So if you can just hop out and we'll get you in momentarily. And okay. I've got to say, all of the PvP that I've really seen is mostly because I like to watch Alicia's games because he always wins them every time. His PvP is ridiculous right now, and I don't know what it is. He has some kind of strange sense of how it works, but what I've noticed is one of the key points of Heart of the Swarm PvP seems to be the Oracle backstab. The notion that Stargate is a lot more popular, and if the opposing player comes to attack you, you then backstab them with an Oracle while their army's out on the map. And you can do a huge amount of damage. And then it generally ends up in this weird, funky base trade where no one has any units left. And it's going to be Whirlwind to start us off, so this actually could just be a ridiculously long game. Who knows? Alright.
That would definitely be fun to watch.
Yeah, sort of. Maybe. I don't like to call any match, really, as something that I dislike watching. I definitely don't call PvP my favorite, though.
I don't know, I just miss the days when everything was mass army versus mass army, and then you would both have motherships, and you would just trade vortexes. You just have like two vortexes sitting there staring at each other, and then the armies would pop out and the actual fight would happen. I miss that.
Yeah, that would be nice to see. The big War of the Worlds style was very... It was nice to watch, I've got to say, but...
It looked terrible to play. I feel better for us than for them. Like, we have to watch it, they actually have to play it.
Yeah. That's very, very true indeed. Lots of players have expressed a great deal of frustration with PvP. I'm currently expressing frustration with the fact that Hellokitty can't decide on his bloody color. Stay there. Don't change. Thank you very much. They do this on purpose. Like the Koreans. The Koreans know. LL. Yeah, I knew it. You see, he's doing it there. The Koreans actually know now that I'm frustrated by it, so whenever I cast them, they do it on purpose. And that is probably Crank's and Ryung's fault for telling them, and I should dock them pay.
You should just dock them the cost of the invalidated tickets. Then it balances out both problems.
Oh, yeah. That I don't think they'll be too happy about that. We might not have a team very quickly after that, but... Alright, okay. Hellokitty says, Protoss versus Protoss, no skill involved whatsoever. Let's see if that's really true. If he gets 3-0'd here by State, then I think we could say... But here we go. I'd also like to point out, by the way, that State, while teamless, actually has a sponsor. He is now personally sponsored by Gamefront, which is a nice little logo under his logo there. So it's good to see, actually. Seeing these unteamed players actually being able to get some income from a personal sponsor is kind of a big deal.
Okay, I actually have a problem that I need to fix now that we have a mirror matchup. Both players show up as yellow on my screen, and I've just kind of been dealing with it, but that's not going to work here.
No,
so
it isn't.
How do I fix that?
Well, if you press the X button, you should see the hotkeys there. I believe there is a team color system that allows you to change that around. I would look through the X settings menu and see if there's anything like that. But don't press strong team colors, because that actually applies to everyone, including the players, which is really weird.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be able to get that resolved. In the meantime, we'll do the intros to the northeast position of Whirlwind in the Red Trunks playing Protoss. We have a Hellokitty versus his opponents. Down to the southeast position, now personally sponsored by Gamefront. In the Blue Trunks playing Protoss, it is State. Let's see how this works out for both of these players. They are definitely not in the furthest positions they could be. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see airplay here, simply due to the nature of the map and the distance, although some might argue that there are some pretty awkward positions, like, considering where they are right now, there's not a big void to the right of the map where you can really escape. So it's very, very easy for your air units to actually get trapped and not have an escape route. They can kind of dart back to the corner here, but then they can just kind of get stuck there, which is not that ideal. What do you reckon?
Well, I can't figure out how to change the player colors, but yeah, you're right. It's not the best positions for that kind of Oracle harass, but I mean, there is still areas where they can hide, and if your opponent's going ground, that's all you really need. You just need to be a way to get off of the platform where they can reach you. But if your opponent also happens to be going Stargate, I know for a period there was just pure Stargate versus Stargate Phoenix versus Phoenix play coming out of at least the Kespa players. I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside, and we're getting a lot more diverse builds now. But if you happen to end up in that kind of situation, then obviously this is not a good map for Oracles.
No.
Just because there is no airspace to hide in. But honestly, I really don't know. PvP is a matchup I'm least comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's really hard to read whatever they're doing.
Yeah, don't worry, I don't know anything about it either. I don't think the players do either, to be fair, so it's just a case of seeing where it goes. We see 3 gas and then 1 and then 2 there, so State looking to mine at pretty much exactly the same speed as Hellokitty right now, pretty much identical builds, both of them scouting in the wrong direction, which is going to be a really awkward situation, but when both probes meet, it's like, oh yeah, oh, alright, now what do we do? State now going to turn around as his Hellokitty.
And State has made the correct read. He knows where his opponent is now, but Hellokitty is just kind of following it. I don't know what Hellokitty's probe is doing out there. He's not going to any of the opponent bases. I guess he's just going to send the Zealot straight out. He was only looking for position. Oh, no, but now the probe decides to go out as well. So Hellokitty not really making up his mind there. Chrono boosting out of Stalker, so he's definitely going to try and apply some pressure to his opponent early on. And that's kind of a mind game kind of thing on a map like this. It's so big that you feel safe, and so he is trying to catch his opponent feeling too safe and actually punish that. And also a Stargate coming down immediately from Hellokitty behind this harass.
Alright, yeah, he's also got himself an earlier Mothership Core. He'll be able to do a little bit of scouting with that. Needs to be careful, of course, where he positions that. It can be very easily picked off by a Stalker. The Hellokitty Zealot is just about as effective as any other Zealot, and is going to look at the Nexus and stare at it intently, but not really get anything out of it. Robo's coming down behind this for State, however, so we're already seeing an interesting difference in builds.
Yeah, it definitely seems to me like that's a build order advantage for Hellokitty. He's going to be able to get a bunch of Phoenix out. He can lift out the Immortals. There's not going to be any Blink Stalkers to try and chase him down. He doesn't have to worry about DTs, obviously, so the lack of Robo is not going to hurt him. So I don't know, that Nexus might be really hard to hold on to for State given these builds.
Yeah, I certainly think so, and it's interesting to see State actually expand so early in this particular matchup. The question is, I suppose, can he hold it? There's a risk here, certainly. There's a Time Warp available. Hellokitty's just going to keep sort of picking away at this. State doesn't really have anything to kill it with. Going down with sentries, of course, is just going to result in dead sentries, but I think he's trying to bait them up the ramp so that he can section the force off. But even then, it's going to start to get a little bit difficult here for State.
Yeah, it definitely is. It seems like State was like, this is a gigantic map. Of course I can fast expand on it. But defense...
as soon as he pops out his Nexus Cannon, he'll be fine, though. That's actually something I forgot there.
Well, the big thing is he can't burn it too fast, because this is just like a little expeditionary force.
True.
The real attack is coming behind it. So if he burns that Mothership Core mana, that's honestly exactly what Hellokitty wants.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, there are some crazy mind games going on in this game. And we have Hellokitty with an Oracle as well. There's already one available, 2 on the way here. State is caught a little bit out of position, and there it goes, though. He was very, very patient with the use of the cannon. That's going to keep something out of there, but there's an Oracle in the mineral line right now, and it's doing significant damage already. That is 5 kills, 6, 7, 8 kills coming in right here. Missed targets, I believe. So, yeah, we're looking at 8 workers killed there.
And as you said, another Oracle already on the way.
Yeah.
Robo just now starting up production on an Observer. The Observer seems kind of weird. It feels like he would have to get another Immortal out. He knows there's no DTs coming if he's already seen Stargate Tech plus Gateway Pressure. So that seems like a kind of an odd choice. And that Nexus Cannon is going to dissipate pretty quickly here, but with already an Immortal out, a few Force Fields available, it may be getting to the point where Hellokitty can micro out of this, or where State can micro out of this, but it just feels like he might keel over and die with the addition of that Oracle, plus those units.
He might, yeah, he might. We'll see how this one goes for him. Down go the Force Fields. The Oracle takes significant damage. They're always focusing down the sentries with it, and he's going to get 1, 2. He's going to get all 3 of the sentries, so there will be no Force Field follow-up. There's barely any units. He even does significant damage to the Immortal there with it. That is the most ridiculous battle Oracle I've ever seen. And as a direct result, the double Time Warp comes down right there, and this is a pretty disastrous situation for State to be in. The Hellokitty Mothership Core is killed, but Hellokitty has way more units than State does in this position. He's now able to saunter his way up the ramp very casually, and this is going to be a pretty quick game. There it is.
Yeah, he gets in there before the sentries, casts another Force Field, and just great Oracle usage, getting all the sentries and getting all of the shield off the Immortal. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was nice. It was really, really nice. He did a decent amount of damage with the backstab into the mineral line, but that Oracle killing 3 sentries and just draining that Immortal shield, which is interesting, actually, I guess. I haven't really thought about the application of using an Oracle against an Immortal like that, simply because of the way Hardened Shield works. I guess it's not too common a thing at all, but in that situation, it worked out really well.
It certainly did, and I don't know, you just have to go back and kind of question State's decision to go Gateway Expansion against Hellokitty of all people.
Yeah.
And obviously, Hellokitty was more than ready to take advantage of that.
That was absolutely true, yeah. I think that was a little bit too impetuous and a little bit too confident, perhaps, from State. Hellokitty, of course, would take full advantage of that, and it's really odd to see an expansion in PvP so early anyway. But you did mention earlier the notion that you can really play an aggressive style on Whirlwind because the other guy doesn't think you will because of the size of the map, but I don't think in a PvP that really works out, because once a pylon's down, the rush distance doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my follow-up thought before Hellokitty decided to go in and kill State.
How dare he?
But yeah, I know, just disrupting my commentary. Rude. But it's just, if you have that pylon down, you might as well be right next to their base. There is no rush distance at that point, so there's no defender's advantage beyond the planetary nexus.
Yep, and I do admire the fact that State did not pop that planetary nexus early. That's no doubt what Hellokitty was looking for him to do. He didn't. He was smart enough, but it didn't really make a difference. And it was already going to be a difficult defense as it was with the small army of State, but losing the 3 sentries and then the shields on the Immortal to an Oracle? No way. Absolutely no way you're going to hold that.
Yep, definitely great usage of the Oracle. I'm not sure how many people would think to apply it like that. I think a lot of people would just send it back into the main and try and do another multi-pronged attack. Yeah. But he realized that, of course, State's going to be expecting that. He's going to have his anti-air in the main, so might as well go into the natural and take advantage of that. And we saw just how fast it kills sentries and kills out the shield, so it ended up being absolutely perfect for him.
Yeah, and I've got to say, you know, I've seen Hellokitty may have difficulty with longer macro games, but his strength seems to be his split decision-making. And he's shown several examples of that. There was a game that he was playing where he was going for 2-base DT, and his proxy pylon got scouted. Immediately, he warps in 4 Zealots, then follows it up with the 4 DTs, and suddenly the Roaches, which were supposed to shut all of this down, aren't enough to stop it. And I'm trying to remember who... Yeah, it was it Go... No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was Gosu User. I'm pretty sure it was Gosu User that lost that game.
I don't know, I didn't see that, but yeah, he's been around and he's been practicing these cheese builds for a long, long time, so he definitely knows what he's doing with them. Because unlike a lot of these players, like Drunken Boy, he just kind of popped up at the start of HOTS. No one really knew who he was beforehand. But Hellokitty has been all-inning people on the ladder since well back into Wings. So he definitely knows what he's doing when he's in his element.
Yeah, he also told me, it was actually against Suppy that he pulled that off, which was even more impressive. But what he also told me is that he actually exchanges builds and practices with a lot of the Chinese players, like Jim. So there's a weird dynamic in there where the Chinese scene's starting to seep over to the North American ladder because this guy is talking to the Chinese guys. And we made a joke during the stream that Chinese macro was 2-base all-in, but, you know, like 27 probes. But it actually kind of is. Like, the Chinese style of play is a little bit different, and it's resulting in these weird builds from Hellokitty that are actually proving to be pretty effective.
Yeah, I don't actually know how the Chinese played too much in StarCraft 2, just because their scene is so insular, and in WCS last year, the Koreans knocked them all out. So it's kind of hard to tell from that, but I remember in Brood War, they were almost to a fault, just all super aggressive. And it's very weird, because they are so isolated that they all develop their own meta. And some of them practice on Korea, the good ones practice on Korea, but their community is very insular, as I was saying. And just, there's not a whole lot of communication. They really develop their own ways of playing. And then foreigners just aren't used to that at all because we don't really see it. And so it's very surprising when they come out and they play however they play. So it's actually a pretty big advantage for Hellokitty to be exposed to that and then to play amongst North Americans, because there's not going to be anything equivalent out there for us to experience.
No, absolutely not. And obviously his ladder play is very much indicative of the cheesy style as well, but he broke out different cheeses in his group versus what we saw from him on ladder, and even what we saw from him in previous events, like his performance in the Premier Division, where he actually did knock Heart out, and he broke out 2 very specifically prepared builds for that. And then he breaks out new ones. It's almost an infinite vat of cheese.
Yeah, that is the absolutely crucial part of being a competitive cheesy player. There's plenty of people on ladder who just have a single build that can catch their opponents off guard, and they get some wins out of that. But if you do that in competition, you're going to get figured out after 2 games. Yeah. But what Hellokitty does, like you said, he infinite vat of cheese. He has a whole ton of different builds up his sleeve, and as long as you can diversify it, and they all don't have like a universal counter, they're not all immediate unit heavy all-ins or something in that vein, then it works just as well, because your opponent is still going to be confused. They still can't hard counter it, and so the cheeses all maintain their effectiveness. And so, as much as Hellokitty has that reputation, he is the right kind of cheeser to keep his opponents off balance and keep them guessing, which just makes him even more scary and dangerous to play. Definitely. The only thing... Sorry, go ahead. The only thing he really doesn't have going for him is that he can't play a macro game as well as most players. And if you throw that in the mix, then he just becomes the ultimate scary player to play against, because it could be anything, including an actual game.
Yeah, no one would ever expect that. But
No.
Hellokitty did manage to hide the Twilight Council there in the back, so that was nicely done. And he is up against a 2-gate opening, which involves, of course, a significant number of Stalkers to go in. And then, Dark Shrine is coming down here for Hellokitty. Definitely not a bad option by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to see if State actually goes in. He's going Nexus again. This might not be a good move. I know that it's nice to see that he's got the 3 Stalkers out on the map, so that means he's got great map control, but if he doesn't follow this up with something, then this could end up being really messy. There is a probe that is to the side there that could very well warp in. He could get very close as well with it.
I'm certain he will, and as long as Hellokitty holds his ramp, and it looks like State's not even going to go aggressive with that, just now putting down his Robo, and with pylons that far forward, DT Shrine already well over half done, this is looking pretty iffy for State. I don't know the exact timings. Maybe he has that timed out perfectly to get an observer, and he's actually taking down the pylons. That's absolutely huge. That tells him that something is up, that he needs to be defensive. The problem is he doesn't know just what.
Well, he's got a Robo on the way, so he's not going to have an observer out in time. I think that's pretty much clear, although he does buy himself a few seconds because of that kill on the pylon there. So we'll see what Hellokitty decides to do from there on in. He's actually put one right in the center of the map there, so he does have a few options. But the Robo continues to build, and this observer is going to be absolutely crucial. It's going to be the only way he will be able to stop this. Single Dark Templar gets warped in. Second one to follow it up here as well. Now, let's see how much damage Hellokitty can really do with this. Of course, if it doesn't do that much, it doesn't have to do that much in a PvP. That's the wonderful thing about mirrors. If you're able to take down a bunch of workers, even if it's not as many as you would think, you could still do an awful lot here. State is blocking the ramp, or at least, never mind.
Oh, he didn't force field.
Oh, that's big.
But the observer's about to finish. He let it in on purpose. He wants it to die. He knew the observer would be in time.
Nice. That's pretty damn cute. And one's going to go down. Second one is going to survive by the looks of it. And the third one is just running off now. Not a great amount of damage done so far at all.
Yeah, so that actually turned out to be the perfect build from State. He knew the exact DT timing. He got the observer out right then, and everything worked out pretty much perfect for him. Did lose 1 sentry, only killed 1 DT, so that could have been better. But he does have the faster Nexus, and he has the more usable tech. That DT Shrine isn't going to do too much going forward, besides providing a little bit more harassment from the DTs. Whereas that Robust now starts Immortal production and can eventually go into Colossus production, both of which you want as part of your mid-game army. So better economy and better tech coming out of this from State.
Yep. Hellokitty's going to start to bring Archons into the mix, which I do like very much, but you're just very severely limited with like only 1 or 2 Archons, and that's also been scouted there by State as well with the Hallucinated Phoenix. So that's looking pretty good for him. The State Twilight Council is on its way. Blink is, of course, being added on for Hellokitty. That's probably the most sensible thing he can do from this position.
Yeah, it certainly is. That Archon's going to keep him alive. He had scared back those units that State was going to try and poke with. Just completely shut down that. And then the Blink follow-up, obviously that's the best way to make use of this tech. And we see 2 more gateways coming down from Hellokitty as well as a Robo. So probably transitioning into just Blink Stalkers plus maybe Immortals. I'd imagine Immortals. And it looks like that is what State is going for as well. However, State has now gone up to 5 gateways just yet, whereas Hellokitty is getting up to 5 gateways.
Indeed.
So
War Prism coming out here from State, so he himself will be able to harass as well. You know, it would be really nice if we saw War Prism from Hellokitty because he would be able to do the Dark Templar drops, which can prove to be pretty effective, especially in the late game. I remember seeing a game from Alicia, actually, where that really did turn the tide in a game that, by all rights, he should have lost. I think it was it against all? I can't remember. It was so long ago. They all kind of merged together now, but he did a really, really great job of handling that. The thing is that Hellokitty needs to focus on getting up a decently sized army because those DTs didn't really do much, and he has now merged the other 2 into an Archon. So a Dark Shrine of States is coming down, so he evidently does intend to do the same kind of thing. Double Forge coming in from State. All right.
that's very interesting. State's also cleared up the rocks going up to his 12 o'clock expansion, as well as closing off the outer pathway to it. So he may just be going with that double forge, double upgrades, that War Prism out, and the DT Shrine coming, probably going to use Zealot and DT Warp-Ins to buy himself time, and maybe headed towards a 3rd base. But it looks like an army coming out from Hellokitty, and with how early he added those 4th and 5th gateways, this is not particularly surprising. Looks like he definitely wants to be aggressive, and he's going to meet these Stalkers of State out in the middle of the map.
Yep, and he shouldn't have too much of a problem dealing with that as well, because he has Blink and State actually doesn't. This is a really nice timing here for Hellokitty. The Warp Prism, we're going to keep an eye on the minimap there, just to make sure that nothing crazy ends up happening. But another aggressive Blink forward will pick him off a couple more, and those force fields will delay that, but they won't really do an awful lot else. So that was a nice little move from Hellokitty. Army Supply is actually currently in his favor. The Warp Prism could be critical here, however, because this is the DT counter backstab coming in from State. He's going into the main base. There's really nothing to stop that from happening. So at this point, Hellokitty's got to get a really, really nice engagement, and if he doesn't, then he could be in a hell of a lot of trouble, because there's DT's ravaging his mineral line right now. Hellokitty's actually not fighting up to the top here. I think he's trying to think about how on earth he's going to deal with these DTs that are killing everything he owns, and I don't think there is a way.
No, he really messed that up. Trying to split his attention between the DTs and the battle, he just left all of his stalkers out of it for the entire time. So now with those existing units from State plus the Planetary Nexus, he's going to hold this off. And at the same time, both Mineralized are just absolutely naked, just getting ravaged by the DTs. And Hellokitty, maybe that attack could have worked, but he really just absolutely threw it away with that errant Blink.
Indeed, and so many probes from State, he could just basically fight with them. 7 probes to 48. The DTs are now beating up on gas extractors because they have nothing better to do with their time. There's nothing for them to really kill there. And this, I think, will be the end of Hellokitty in this particular game. There's no real question about that. He got nicely played there by State, I think. There are still some Dark Templar around the place, but at the end of the day, there are 2 observers from State, so eventually this stuff will die. If Hellokitty somehow manages to win from this position, it would be kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think it's physically possible.
No,
Although he does still have quite a few units here, and but State has his own DTs, and Hellokitty does not have an observer, I believe.
He has
it's hard for me to tell because
yeah, he's got it with the army now. Actually, he does have one.
Okay, well, I don't know, because State doesn't really have much in the way of income. He's getting his Archon now, but against 4 DTs plus those backup units, that's a lot of DPS coming out of the DTs. This may be kind of hard for State to actually clear up.
This would actually be kind of hilarious. Archon is currently engaging against an Immortal, which is the longest battle of all time. And a quick blink out there, and that's a surround on the Immortal. That's a nice move there by State. And the Dark Templar, yeah, they're gone. There's an Observer, a Dark Templar, and 2 Stalkers available for Hellokitty. He's currently on 7 supply versus 53. So the comeback potential here is, let's just say, limited.
Yeah, really cute by Hellokitty trying to get that last observer down, and he might actually get it. He does get it, but he has another observer being chrono boosted out,
yeah.
And Hellokitty knows that, and so that's the end of that.
Yes, and that was over a couple of minutes ago, but as you said, there was the possibility that maybe, just maybe, he got back into that, but you know, PvP is really knife-edge like that. But a nice move there by State, the Dark Templar drop, which, it's funny that I was talking about that Dark Templar drop being an option there for the backstab when you're in a big engaged situation. If that drops behind it, you're basically boned. You've either got to beat him right there, or Dark Templar will just kill everything you've got, and you don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, and Hellokitty didn't really keep that in mind. He didn't realize that the attack was the important thing to focus on. He looked back, he tried to figure out how to defend it, realized that he couldn't. But by that time, it was too late because he just lost control of the frontal battle.
Yeah, he had about 10 Stalkers there not actually firing, which is a huge deal. If he'd been able to defeat the forces at the ramp more soundly, he could have gone for the base trade, and he would have probably won the base trade. But that didn't happen, and State was able to play him like a fiddle. And we see a 1 apiece now in this best-of-5 series. We're going to the next game on Bel'Shir Vestige between these 2.
All tied up now, which means we get to watch more PvPs, see what other builds Hellokitty has prepared for us today.
I'm interested, certainly. You know, throwing the Dark Templar in there when you're 1 ahead is a pretty interesting roll of the dice, I think, especially since he pretty much did that blind, but it was nicely timed out by State. That build is obviously a very safe build against a lot of different things. I like it because with the 2 Stalkers, you can get pretty aggressive, you gain map control, you can try and deny pylons going down. You can do a lot of things with it. It's pretty flexible.
It looked like a very safe build in general. With those early stalkers out, those early 3 stalkers, that's enough to shut down any kind of forward pylon, as long as you're very careful and conscientious about your scouting. And then obviously we saw the Observer came out, the exact perfect timing. Not sure if it would hold off, like if you had done another Stargate build or something like that, any other kind of Stargate-based aggression. That would be, I think, the big weakness of it, but really not too sure. But every build PvP has a weakness, like they were saying in the pregame interview. There's a lot of luck and build order based factors in PvP.
That's very true. We're just waiting for State to join the lobby now, and then we'll hopefully get into the next game momentarily. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, Game 3 on Bel'Shir Vestige of State versus Hellokitty. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this particular series. Bel'Shir Vestige will be the next game, and we will be looking at this player right here. He is in the red trunks. He is playing Protoss to the northwest. He is Hellokitty. Versus his opponent down to the southeast position that played a really nice game. Very, very calm, cool, and collected, intelligent. It is, of course, in the blue trunks playing Protoss, State.
Both players exchanging a little bit of banter before a game. Hellokitty asking him where his DT shrine was, and State asking what DT shrine. I'm not really sure what purpose that serves, but they are messing with each other a little bit.
How dare they?
Yeah.
I guess if you have to wait this long to play your games when you should have played them like 3 hours ago, you get kind of a little bit silly.
Kind of
after a
antsy.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely don't blame them. There's pretty much nothing worse than that, and no doubt, I know for a fact you've experienced that at tournaments.
Oh, certainly. That's been a staple of StarCraft 2 tournaments since the very start.
Yep.
It's even worse at live tournaments when you have to deal with convention center internet and everything. This is actually
Jesus.
relatively tame. Only an hour and a half delay. That's nothing.
Yeah, I've definitely been on tournaments where it's been far, far worse. There's no real question about that one. Alright, well, State and Hellokitty, I am intrigued to see what builds kind of get broken out at this stage. It could be absolutely anything. There was no way to predict that. Hellokitty and State both are opening up with the gateway on about the same time. No proxy nonsense as of yet, and that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, but State actually checking for any gateways hidden in his base.
Yeah.
It's pretty cute. Because that's what happens when you play against a player like Hellokitty. It is so scary playing against someone who's willing to do anything and take any risk. You have to start making those little sacrifices in your play. Like, he just lost a little bit of mining time to go scout his base out. That's what makes them so hard to play against. And we actually see incredibly early double gas from Hellokitty, like immediate double gas.
Yeah. It's great that you mentioned that, actually, because the paranoia that was in play when Hellokitty was playing in Group C was actually hilarious to watch. You had players, including Suppy, scouting everywhere with like 4 or 5 lings, drones, everything, all the time, and then still managing to miss whatever the proxy play was.
That always happens. I swear Huck in particular, there's some kind of magic that makes his pylons invisible. You never ever scout it, even when you know 100% it's coming. It just does not work.
Yeah, it's a nightmare to deal with, and it's one of the advantages of being known as a player like that, and it's one of the advantages that Hart certainly was able to exploit to his benefit towards the end of Wings of Liberty. He was known as a big all-inner, big cheeser, and then suddenly starts playing macro games, and everyone just gets super paranoid and looks for the hidden command center that isn't there.
I always felt that reputation was kind of undeserved with Hart, because he would play very aggressive, weird kind of throwback builds, but it wasn't really so much cheese. It was like 2 racks into expansion TVP, which was kind of like weird.
Yeah.
But it's not an all-in. It has a CC behind it. It's just a little bit of harass. So I always felt that was kind of overblown, which worked out really well for him because everyone played so paranoid that, like you said, it just gives him a massive advantage.
Yeah, it's really, really nice to see. Twilight Council coming down here in the background for Hellokitty as that scout is not so much denied. You know, he gets a couple of swings in there. He lets him see what he wants him to see. Here's the thing, is State already knows that's the case. There's a Twilight Council coming down here for him as well. This ends up being DT versus DT, then I'm just going to up and leave. But what could end up happening is we could just see Blinkstalker versus Blinkstalker, which is quite fun to watch.
Yeah, I think DT is much more likely at Hellokitty just because he is Hellokitty, and he's also only on the 1 gateway this far.
That's very
whereas
true.
State looks to be going up to 2 gateways, probably a more reliable standard build. And Blinkstalker versus actually they go 2 more gateways, so I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
There's a probe down to the bottom right there, so we will see the pylon placed. Dark Shrine comes down for State. Blink actually comes down for Hellokitty. So
we actually got it flipped.
Yes, we do. We have a nice little role reversal, which is how PvP has a tendency to go from time to time, especially in longer series.
Yep, State was like, last game, that looked pretty fun when he had those early DTs out. I'm going to try it this game.
Yeah. And with Twilight Council Tech instead of Robotech here, that could be a little bit awkward for Hellokitty. He's going to have to at least smell this is coming somehow and figure out exactly what's going on. He is going to see that probe, so he's going to think, all right, well, maybe something's coming, but that's more of a scouting probe than anything else. Will we see a Robo come down? You know, the alternative, of course, is the Stargate, because you can use the Oracle for that, but it's very rarely used unless it's a clutch situation. And Hellokitty is not building a Robo. This is going to be a DT drop play, because there's obviously a Robo coming down behind this, I think, for State. There's the Robo, so yeah, maybe this works out because State might very well want to delay the Dark Templar until he's able to get a Warp Prism out.
I would be really, really surprised if he waits for that. I mean, it may be like a follow-up or something, but
Yeah,
if he doesn't
okay.
warp in DTs immediately at that pylon over there, that's just such a waste to get the Dark Shrine that early and then wait
That's very
even
true.
more time.
Yeah, you're completely right
So-
about that. State's actually expanding as well.
Yeah, he is. He's kind of going for everything. He has a Robo, he's going DT, he's going Nexus, just a little bit of everything. And
Hello
Hello
Kitty
Kitty
sees it.
actually, yeah, that was really weird. He actually sent his stalkers directly over to the pylon. He finds, I believe he's seen the blurs. He must
Yeah,
have.
he did. As soon as he actually saw, it took him a couple of seconds, but he did realize, and he actually doesn't completely wall off, unfortunately. 2 Stalkers will not completely wall that off, and the DTs are now into the mineral line.
An observer, of course, being chronoed out, but he is going to be a little bit late. He's already lost 2 of the probes,
Yep. There's
and
the
2
third.
DTs in there, 3 down, a Zealot as well. So pretty decent damage done this far, and he's just going to run out of there. He's not going to lose any DTs at all. He has a faster Nexus coming, and the only thing he has to really be concerned about is a Blink Stalker all-in coming up here from Hello Kitty, because that Nexus is already going to be finished, and he has a Mothership Core on the way, which means the Planetary Nexus won't be too far behind it if he does have to hold on. The only thing is he got that Robo very quickly, but he was not getting an Immortal. He was just getting an Observer out in case it was DT versus DT. So he's not going to have an Immortal to back this up just yet. He's going to be relying on Wargate units and the Planetary Nexus.
He's getting a second Observer out here as well, which is a sensible thing to do. He'll need one with his army if he wants to try and engage here, because otherwise DTs will just be warped in and kill it completely. The Mortal coming out from State here as well, though, so... will he be able to get enough Stalkers on the map to really make this work? It's currently 10 Stalkers versus 5. There's a few Zealots in there, which make things a little bit awkward for Micro as well. But there's then 2 DTs and, of course, the Nexus Cannon available. Actually, the Nexus Cannon is not available for another couple of seconds here. If Hello Kitty were actually to pick off this warp, oh, he's actually used it on a Time Warp. Never mind. Time Warp actually doesn't make that much of a difference when there's Blink Stalkers on the field.
No, it really doesn't, but that DT is getting in there and doing a ton of damage. I'm not sure.
Where's the Observer?
Oh, his Observer was way far back. So.
Oh, man.
Wow. Hello Kitty kind of just threw that. I'm not sure if he could have broken through anyway. Not having the Observer there caused him to just take so much damage from those DTs, and now the Immortal's out, and that's going to pretty much shut this down.
Yeah, I certainly think so. But he is going to blink into the main base and try and maybe get some harassment off there. Tries to pick off the Zealot and doesn't get it. He does get the Mothership Core, but he's going to get trapped in the corner with the Immortal there to play, which is never good, so he loses a Stalker there. He does have some harassment potential. There's actually no Observer either for State, so there's no way for State to detect... Oh, never mind, he just got one out of his own. Blink onto the Immortal is impetuous, to say the least, especially with Dark Templar in the mix, and he's taking significant damage. He picks off the Immortal. Maybe worth it, maybe not. Hello Kitty's certainly behind at this stage, though. There's no doubt about that.
Big problem there is he got the Observer as well, and there's still a DT on the field for State, which means this attack just can't go in there until he gets another Observer out. He's not even producing one. He's just going to go try and expand, and that's not going to work at all. State's Nexus is already up. If we look at the income tab, 35 probes to 24, and now he's going to try and put up a Nexus. This is... it would take a miracle for Hello Kitty to win from this point. He's just behind in every way.
Especially in a mirror match. He doesn't really have the tech available to perform a backstab that would allow him to get back into this game. Blink Stalker tech is probably one of the weakest techs available for a Protoss to backstab another Protoss with. Much better to have either Warp Prism or an Oracle or something along those lines. He doesn't have any of those things. So that's a little bit difficult, especially with one Observer. He doesn't even have high ground vision. And there's no Mothership Core on the field for him either. Yeah, this is going to be very, very difficult. He's going to bring in the Warp Prism, so we'll see if he can make that work. He's going to have to do significant damage, though. He's already having to deal with Dark Templar. He manages to nicely wall that off and kill it, so that's nicely put together there by him, but he's behind in a pretty major way.
Yeah, 25 supply behind, slower Nexus and slower tech in a mirror matchup. That's very nearly insurmountable. Like you said, a Warp Prism on the way. We'll see what he can do with that, but is it going to be enough to turn this around? I'd be really surprised. I feel at this point State just builds up a little bit more. He's getting Blink, so I think as soon as he gets Blink, he just goes in there with his army. And we see no Immortals out yet for Hello Kitty. 2 of them already on the field for State. Just every way that's possible to have an advantage in PvP. State has it.
Yes, and State's also not the kind of player to throw it away either, so that's very unlikely to happen. Oh, and the Warp Prism is going to get seen by this pylon as well as it goes over. Like, everything going wrong for Hello Kitty in this game.
Yeah. And Hello Kitty are actually putting down... a very, very strangely placed Dark Shrine, so I guess he's going to try and go for that. Already at least one Observer out on the field for State. Actually, only one, so maybe that's a smart way, like, if you're going to take a risk, but it gets found by a DT, so that's out of the picture as well. And just everything that could go wrong for Hello Kitty is going wrong this game.
Yeah, and the Stalkers are already in position to deal with this. Blink is on its way to being finished. It gets Chrono Boosted as well. It's not going to play a factor here, but it doesn't really need to. Unless Hellokitty is extremely quick with his micro, he will lose that Warp Prism. Oh, and he's warping units in as well. This would actually be even worse if he ends up losing the Warp Prism with actual units in it. That's not a good position to be in. Hellokitty's actually... He built the Dark Shrine, then went Colossus, didn't he?
He built the Dark Shrine, but that DT over in the mid-right from State, that actually found and canceled the Dark Shrine.
Oh, wow.
So he was forced to switch into Colossus. The latest Colossus ever seen as well.
Indeed.
So, unlikely. And Blink has now finished for State, so if that War Prison tries to come in, he can immediately blink under it and actually kill it, as long as those Stalkers stay in position.
Yeah, we've got Zealot versus Zealot in the corner right there. Who will win this battle for the ages? It will, in fact, be Hellokitty by look of the dice more so than anything else there, as they both engage at exactly the same time. This War Prism just kind of hovering around there, which is kind of cool because State is expecting it to be there. It's like, where is it? Where, how patient is he? But there's another Dark Templar coming in, and that's going to be a little bit tricky to deal with. It's now finally been shut down, but any mining time lost in this position just puts State further ahead.
Yeah, we see his supply lead doing nothing but growing. He also just sent in Hallucinated Phoenix, which saw the Robo Bay, so he knows that the tech choice has been made, and he is beginning to build that tech. And so this is the perfect time to actually come in and attack, because this is right before that investment in the Robo Bay is really going to pay off. He's only going to have one unranged Colossus on the way out, and if you look at the relative army sizes, it's kind of just a joke. A couple of Archons, a couple of Immortals, and just way more of everything.
The Warp Prism backstab is set up, but the problem is that the more you warp in there, the less you get to warp in against this army, which is way, way bigger than yours. So, one way or the other, I don't think this is really going to make much of a difference. He goes for it right now. Nexus Cannon is up. Archon actually doesn't care about Nexus Cannon in any way, shape, or form. He can deal with that. Nice use of the Time Warp there. State blinks in right on top of the Colossus, which kills that off immediately. And there is no way in a million years that Hellokitty is holding this.
Nope, and he's actually forgotten about the Warp Prism down bottom right, so that the one thing he had going for him is out, and GG.
Well, that was easy enough. State manages to handle that one very nicely indeed. Hellokitty definitely not looking particularly strong in that game. And I guess he's not really used to being DT'd, honestly. That's the kind of thing that he likes to do.
Yeah, cheesing a cheeser is probably the best way to deal with it. You get them out of their comfort zone, you get them away from the game they have planned out, and we've seen Hellokitty's mechanics not the best in the world. Might leave a little bit something to desired, so if you just take him out of his comfort zone, he's going to get a lot worse, and that's what State did there.
Now we have the first player, I think, in this tournament to pick Neoplanet S as anything but the last map, and of course Hellokitty's pick. I don't know why I'm surprised.
That does not surprise me at all.
No, yeah. it doesn't. It's PvP. Like, it's one of the cheesiest matchups you could possibly have, one way or the other, simply due to the nature of the game. I like the fact that State is actually taking... He's taking a few risks, I guess, with that earlier Nexus, but it's actually paying off for him in a big way. Also, one of the only players I've really seen emphasize the double Forge play, even if it doesn't necessarily come into effect later on.
Yeah, I found that could be quite surprising. The first two games, he really took quite a bit of risks. Like, he went for the one-gate Nexus, and then he went for the quick double Forge. And against Hellokitty, you normally wouldn't... That's not the intuitive way to play against a cheeser. You play much more cautiously early on, because you know some kind of attack is going to be coming. But it worked out for him once, it didn't work for him once, and then he just flipped it all around, and he went DTs himself. So a lot of diversity coming out from State, which I really like, because that's keeping his opponent off guard. And in PvP, you pretty much have to, just because it is such a weird matchup.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Neoplanet S. All right, we are ready to rock and roll. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. No ad breaks. Let's just get into it. Neoplanet S is the venue for potentially the final map today, finishing about 3 hours later than it should. I really, really need some dinner. I actually need some breakfast, lunch, and some dinner. I haven't had any of those things, so... Oh, dear. Never mind. Ooh. Yeah, all right, there we go. Hellokitty was... That was a little bit odd, actually, from Hellokitty's mining probe, so almost, like, completely synced up in this weird way, but hey, there we go. So, Hellokitty to the southwest position in the red trunks, playing Protoss versus his opponent, who is currently up 2-1 in this best-of-5 series, fighting for the honor of taking on Minigun in a PvP and then potentially going... Well, obviously going through to the Protoss versus Zerg final that we know we're going to have. It is... State.
And this map, honestly, I don't know how much the map is really going to play into things, because
maybe not.
PvP, the size of the ramp matters a lot, because obviously you have to defend it with force fields every once in a while. But other than that, pylon warp-ins make rush distance not too big of a deal. A lot of the times it doesn't even get to a third base, or things are already like in full swing by the time you're past the second base, so the expansion position and defensibility isn't as big of a deal. So that may play into why we get to see Planet S here, but really I don't think that's going to play too big of a role in the game. I think it's really going to be up to whatever builds the players decide to do, just like every other PvP.
I certainly think so. And it very well might end up just being some blind disaster one way or the other, which is so often the case in PvP. Gateway coming down at around the appropriate time. Let's see who gets gas when. That's going to be the interesting point of this. State's going to take it there on 14 supply. Hellokitty, I would imagine, is actually delaying it a little bit. There you go. He takes it on 15.
Last game, he did go for that immediate double gas just as he did
there
here.
It is.
But he only puts two probes on them right away, so it ends up not being too different from the mining rate of 1. And it's something that Sase actually did a lot for a long time, because if you have 2 probes on, it's only 80% of the efficiency of having 3 probes on, so it's in some weird way the math works out such that it's actually more efficient depending on what goals you have.
Yeah.
So he may just be doing something along those lines. And we look at a similar build from State, he gets his second gas quite quickly as well, and both going to put double workers on there, and then we have to see where we come from here.
Yep, Cybercore going down. There's not really a lot of variety available for either player to begin with, and not really a lot to show or analyze. It's once that Cybercore finishes that things start to get interesting, and we find out what kind of tech choice will be made available here. I would like to see a little bit more Oracle play from Hellokitty. I think he's done a pretty good job with it so far. He seems to know what to do with it. He is going to put down a second gateway, though, so that would, if he decides to go for that, just delay it a little bit, and usually kind of precludes that option.
But we do see double gateway from both of them, so
Yep.
kind of mirror builds thus far, which is the first. We haven't seen this yet in the matchup. Everyone has been diversifying. Still still 2 probes on gas from Hellokitty, but State has 3 on, so he may be going for a more tech-oriented build, whereas Hellokitty, it's more likely he's probably going to just expand. Not something you say too often about Hellokitty, but that does seem like what he's aiming for.
Yep, it seems like he is shooting for exactly that, and this State's got a probe over there. Hellokitty should be able to spot that. He hasn't seen it. Like, that
would be pretty funny.
That would be hilarious. But he's skirting around the edge here.
He has to see it.
No, he's definitely going to see it now.
He's just going to
certainly.
scout.
Yeah.
I was hoping he would put down a pylon and
I would have
forgate him
laughed
in base.
a lot,
Yeah.
but...
If that happens to Hellokitty. If that's not karma, I don't think anything is.
Oh, yes, that would be pretty delicious. Hellokitty's putting down a third gateway, and State's actually going to see it as well.
Third gateway with no tech, and his response is Stargate right away. He already has 2 gateways, so he's going to have plenty of units out to hold off any kind of very quick aggression, I would have to imagine.
You think so?
Yeah. But there is a Stalker in there that's actually shooting away at the gateway, but is chased off by the initial 2 Stalkers from State. And still just sitting on 3 gateways and chronoing out Stalkers from both of his initial gateways is Hellokitty. So it definitely looks like and double pylon coming down out right in front of State. But State has 3 Stalkers there to shoot them down, so I don't really see how this is going to work out too well.
Yeah, you can get the cancellation there. If you can get the Mothership Core in there, he actually time warps it there. I'm not entirely convinced by the time warp move. I mean, it will allow Hellokitty to pick off 1 Stalker, and it does keep that alive. And now, of course, State is having to be in the defensive position. Phoenix is being brought out here from State. Definitely not a decision I hate. Obviously, they are the quickest unit you can bring out of the Stargate, and they're also pretty good for not only killing Mothership Cores, but lifting Stalkers. Good use of the force field right there. High ground vision is available for Hellokitty, but he doesn't have the range, and the shields have already gone down on that Mothership Core.
Plus, he already spent his mana on time stop, so it doesn't really do too much anyway besides spotting. And with plenty of force fields available, Hellokitty's just kind of throwing away units here. Going to get in, get some scouting information. State needs to be really careful to not let it up his ramp. Although he does have so many units at this point, he can kind of just win a straight-up fight. And that looks like what he's fine with at this point. Yeah,
I think so. This aggression has been shut down pretty hard, honestly, and I don't think he's even going to get a sentry out of this. And the Mothership Core is actually going to die to the Phoenix, which is unfortunate. Oh, no, it gets away. Just a nice little move there by Hellokitty, but unfortunately that forces him backwards, which means State is able to get down to the ramp and actually take an efficient engagement. So he goes in there and is able to focus down those units very, very easily indeed. And a nice, solid early lead here for State.
Very solid indeed. He only gave up 1 sentry. He got in return 4 or 5 Stalkers, maybe a couple more, plus the Mothership Core. And the only thing Hellokitty really got out of it was the scouting information. We do see him put up a Twilight Council and go straight out to Blink. Obviously the proper response to the Phoenix, but kind of too little too late, I think.
There's a Dark Shrine coming down.
Of course there is. But there's also a robotics on the way from State, starting at the same time, so that's going to be in plenty of time to have observers out. Don't see that doing anything. No Nexus coming from Hellokitty. We were silly enough to believe he might go fast expansion early on in the game. Obviously not. This is Hellokitty. So no Nexus from him. DT's on the way, and as soon as that is shut down by State. I don't know how he possibly intends to keep the Dark Shrine secret with Phoenix flying around the map. It doesn't matter anyway, because State's already doing the counter, but just, Phoenix are out. Why on earth would you place a tech that absolutely has to be secret to work?
It's a very, very strange option, and needless to say, it is actually not getting scouted. That's kind of hilarious.
He does manage to hold it off, but the Robo has already finished.
Yeah.
The only question is whether or not he makes an observer. That's the only possible thing. And Hellokitty, in his eminence, has saved up all of the mana on his Nexus, so he's going to be able to chrono boost out a lot of DTs right away, and he does go ahead and do that. I don't see does he even have a forward pylon? He only has that one up top. So.
Yeah, he's got the one up top, which obviously is not an ideal place to be in. Phoenix actually lifted up the probe, but it didn't matter because the pylon got killed anyway. So we'll see. There is an Immortal on the way. It would be very strange if Hellokitty was actually able to make this work. There is one observer. I have to wonder where. If it must be in a defensive position. There's no reason to send your observer forward when you have Phoenixes to scout, especially when you're playing against Hellokitty. That is actually ridiculous. Yeah, that's
right
gonna,
over his natural.
Yeah, that's going to die pretty much immediately. Force fields it in just to add insult to injury there, and State's definitely in a position to defend against this.
Yeah, Hellokitty not even going to bother going in, doesn't bother making any more DTs. I'm honestly not sure what he even plans on doing with this. He goes ahead and puts down a Nexus. He actually pylon blocked his own Nexus for a second, so he had to cancel that, then put down the Nexus.
Whoops.
And once again, State's Nexus has completed before Hellokitty's even begins. Hellokitty's aggression has absolutely failed, and State's ahead in economy, tech, and army. And I don't think we would have to invent another way to be ahead for State to be any more ahead at this point.
I don't really know how he's going to be able to pull this off. I don't see any way whatsoever. State is in a great position. There's no way to get DTs into the base unless State does something ridiculously stupid, which evidently he's not going to do. Lifts come in as well. He's going to lose a Phoenix here. Doesn't really matter that much. He gets a few probes, which obviously in the mirror matchup is pretty important. He already has a pretty significant lead in that regard because that Nexus has been running for God knows how long, and Hellokitty's hasn't even finished yet, so... We now end up in a situation where Hellokitty is going charge with a couple of Zealots on the map here, and we see a Twilight Council coming down for State as well. But there's no question, State is way ahead in every possible respect.
Yeah, it looks like Hellokitty probably going to go for Charge Lot Archon, I would imagine, with Charge. And Charge Lot Archon is a pretty great composition in some situations. If you catch your opponent off guard, it can look silly how badly it obliterates various other armies. But at this point, it's not going to be a comeback move for him. He's just too few units, too far behind. A Dark Shroud coming for State, also getting Blink. State, I kind of got to commend how carefully he plays against Hellokitty, and that is to be expected. But he has been very, very cautious with his leads. He doesn't try and overcommit. He doesn't risk a base race or anything, because that's what Hellokitty's going to go for. He's not going to try and play out a macro game, particularly when he gets this far behind. So State just keeping his wits about him, playing very carefully, and just sitting on that lead. Actually going double forge at this point, which is kind of dragging it out a bit too much. He doesn't really need to do that to us at this point. But he's going to be very, very careful.
Yeah. State actually has been described by several players in this tournament already as what they believe to be the best North American Protoss at this time. For what I've seen of him, I don't really disagree. He's been playing a really, really good game so far. Hellokitty finds a pylon, which is more of a moral victory than anything else down at the bottom, I think. He is at least running now on 2 Nexus. He's still definitely behind. There are DTs now warping in for State as well. There is actually no observer on the map for Hellokitty whatsoever. The Robo is about to complete, though, so he will at least be able to get one of those out.
If he actually makes an observer immediately, because at this point, I'm not sure if you're really getting a Robo as a... Oh, he does start it immediately. I'm not sure if he scouted that. I'm not sure if he actually scouts. Just on principle, but he will get an observer out immediately, so that should be able to shut this down. Maybe a couple of probe kills, but not a big deal at all. Just back at home State, continuing to macro up, chasing down that, even putting cannons in his mineral line. He actually is playing this as safe as possible. He knows he has a 1 game, and he will not risk it for anything. DT's in the mineral line, killing off a bunch of probes in both places.
Yep, that's very, very true indeed. We currently see 26 to 45, which is a very, very good lead to have in any matchup, least of all, of course, a mirror. So this is very difficult for Hellokitty to even consider coming back from. And now I think State is going to attempt to finish. And he does have he's got the Mothership Core with him. He's got a Warp Prism. There is a Mothership Core on the field as well there for Hellokitty. But massive DG drop potential is here. There's 5 Dark Templar on the field. And hell, if you want to play Chargeable Archon, you're going to get out-Archoned by State if he wants to. There's 2 Immortals in the mix. This army is just absolutely what he needs to crush Hellokitty at this stage.
Yep, and those cannons back at home really paying off for State. Shut down an attempted DT counter right away. Didn't cost anything, didn't even have to leave any units back. So that caution really paying off. And actually just elevatoring some DTs in to try and pull the army out of position, and then should go in at the front for the kill. To Hellokitty's credit, actually he is kind of biting. He is going up in to get the DT, so he's going to get caught out here. Really big force field potential right there.
Yep. Actually, his entire army just blocked in right there, which is the most awkward dance-off I've ever seen. And now State is preparing to go for another engagement. He does have that Immortal advantage. He's got an everything advantage, which is a great advantage to have. And now he's going to push forward, and we may see the end of this game right now. The time stop goes down. A second force field blocks him out, takes the Nexus out. Pretty much uncontested there. The Immortals are just having great fun shooting probes, which it never really gets to do. And there's the GG. And a very solid PvP from State. State will advance to play Minigun in the round of 4. And that is unfortunately the end of Hellokitty's tournament life here in Shoutcraft.
Yeah, he did make it to the round of 8, and I don't know, I think he probably played a couple of macro games along the way, so he proved everyone wrong. But after that initial fast Nexus build, State just kind of realized what these games were going to be, sat back, swatted away all the harassment, and just won very, very safely from there.
Rock
exactly
solid.
What you have to do.
Yeah. Absolutely rock solid play there from State. So, we now have our round of 4, which will of course be cast tomorrow by myself and Day 9. It might not have been Day 9, but it turns out that Day 9 is terrible at Magic the Gathering, so he's already been sent home from the tournament in disgrace, and he will be casting with me tomorrow, which is always good. It's very rare that I really get to root for Day 9 to lose a tournament, but at that point, you know, that might be something you've had quite a bit of experience in, actually.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
All right, the round of 4 comes in, and the round of 4 is going to be, it's going to be a ZVZ and a PvP, so it actually could be a really short cast, which would be a nice change from what we've had so far. So, we have Ghost User versus Kane in the first match, and then Minigun versus State. And then we will have not only one guaranteed American in the finals, there is still a Canadian lurking around in the form of Kane. And no doubt MLG is hoping that he doesn't get through because they'll have to pay for a more expensive plane ticket. But then we have the guaranteed Protoss versus Zerg final, which is pretty cool. You know, it's nice not to have a best-of-7 mirror final. I'll take the mirrors in the semis in order to ensure that that happens. And then 2 of these guys will, of course, be going to New York to fight in the grand finals, which will take place in the MLG studio. We're going to be the little warm-up act for WCS. Isn't it cute?
It is quite cute.
It is kind of cute. All right, well, Greg, thank you for sitting through all of this bullshit today. That is very much appreciated. You have been an absolute trooper. I'd like to, of course, give you the opportunity to tell everyone what your plans are for the next few weeks.
Just follow me on Twitter. I'll announce anything there at IdrAJIT, IdrAJIT, and regularly watch my stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/IdrAJIT, IdrAJIT. And nothing else to announce just yet, but keep an eye on everything. Hopefully stuff is gearing up, and I'll be able to announce some things soon.
Fantastic. Right, well, Greg, thank you very much. Your analysis is, of course, very much appreciated. And, well, if you want to hire Greg for your tournament, he is now available, so feel free to tweet him. That's probably a pretty good idea. It would be nice if he got paid, because he certainly as hell didn't get paid for this one. We don't have any money left. We just had to give it all to Asiana Airlines. So, thank you very much, Greg. You've been fantastic today, and I really look forward to casting with you once again in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching Shoutcraft, the round of 8. We will be back at the same time tomorrow. That's 2 p.m. EDT. That is 11 a.m. on the Pacific West Coast. That is 7 p.m. in the British Isles and 8 p.m. Central European Summertime here on twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit. 2 best-of-7s for the round of 4 tomorrow, cast by myself and Day 9. Please do remember to check out the VODs. They are available both on twitch.tv/TotalBiscuit and youtube.com/TotalBiscuit. Big shout-outs, of course, do have to go to Reddit Starcraft as well as the Team Liquid thread. Thanks to the guys over at Liquipedia for keeping things updated. That's always very much appreciated. And a big thanks to everyone that tuned in to watch. I'd like to thank Zook for graphic design today, as well as Hellokitty and Kane and the other guys whose names I forget. It's like what? I wasn't even prepared for that. It was Puck, Ghost User, Kane, QXC, Minigun, Drunken Boy, Hellokitty and State. And thank you very much for some really entertaining games. Also thanks to those of you who actually donated to them via the tip jar. And this has been ShoutCraft round of 4. Round of 8, in fact. We're going to be going through to round of 4 tomorrow. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I desperately need to actually get some food. And I'd like to thank all of you once again for being supportive, considering we had a pretty damn rough day. Alright, folks, I'm done. Thank you very much. My name has been TotalBiscuit, casting with Greg IdrA Fields, and I will see you next time.